Americans think they are free, but
there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
Who owns America? Let's look into the situation. Celebrity worship is used to help hold and bind people. Who rules the world?
Governments don't rule the world. Goldman Sachs rules the world.
It was the comment heard around the world, one that generated widespread reaction from papers and pundits alike.
We appreciate your candor, however, it doesn't help the rest of us, does it?
Washington is not the biggest player in this. The global bankers are the biggest players, the global hedge fund managers, and that's where the action, that's who's determining the outcome of this, not the players in Washington. They have already ceded control to the global banking industry.
Wall Street has been pulling the strings in Washington from the get-go. It is the largest sector of campaign contributions, and that's to both parties.
After the last bailout, Goldman Sachs really made incredible, fantastic, ludicrous profits where the rest of the world got cheated and needs help. Here's what some think of Goldman Sachs.
As a, quote, great vampire squid wrapped around the face of humanity, relentlessly jamming its blood funnel into anything that smells like money. Taibbi discussed with us recently how, although people are unaware of it, the big bank has profound power in society.
How much are you paying for gas? How much are you paying for electricity? How much are you paying for your credit cards, your mortgages? How much are you paying in taxes, and how much of your tax dollars are going to debt service?
That is what democracy looks like!
Unlike the mainstream media, few here would be shocked by Rastani's comments.
What we've seen is a dramatic rise in these billionaires, these ultra-rich people. And we don't even know who all of them are, but we do know that they put profit over people, and they use mind control to get more.
Over the national debt. A debate that directly affects the lives of all Americans. For the last decade, we've spent more money than we take in. In the year 2000, the government had a budget surplus. But instead of using it to pay off our debt, the money was spent on trillions of dollars in new tax cuts, while 2 wars and an expensive prescription drug program were simply added to our nation's credit card. As a result, the deficit was on track to top $1 trillion the year I took office. The first approach says, let's live within our means by making serious, historic cuts in government spending. Let's cut domestic spending to the lowest level it's been since Dwight Eisenhower was president. Let's cut defense spending at the Pentagon by hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's cut out waste and fraud in healthcare. At the same time, let's make modest adjustments so that Medicare is still there for future generations. Finally, let's ask the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations to give up some of their breaks in the tax code and special deductions. This balanced approach asks everyone to give a little without requiring anyone to sacrifice too much.
Well, the doctor buys the drug directly from the pharmaceutical company. They give a rebate based on the amount the doctor purchases. Then the doctor sells it to the patient. No discount to reflect the rebate. And is reimbursed by either Medicare or private insurance. So he's making a cash windfall every time he prescribes the drug. The fix is in.
Objection. Sustained.
These doctors are bought and paid for.
Did I ever tell you how my mother died? New blood thinner medication, which when combined with aspirin, caused her to bleed out from an ulcer. Turns out her doctor, who prescribed the medication, was a paid consultant for the drug company.
You don't think doctors are on the take, do you?
I think they prescribe drugs they think are safe. But, I mean, let's face it, with the rising malpractice premiums, lower HMO reimbursements, many doctors can't even afford to practice these days without pharmaceutical consulting grants. And with those grants comes a loss of objectivity.
That loss of objectivity means that doctors are under the influence of the drug companies and the money. And do that patent medicine kill patients? Well, the answer is yes.
You know the death grip the pharmaceutical industry has on this country. They've infiltrated the FDA. A study showed that 90% of all FDA advisory meetings had at least one person with ties to big pharmaceutical. And then there's Congress. Big Pharma gave members of Congress $70 million since 1990. So who does that leave us with but our doctors? And even they're being bought. Between consulting fees and rebates, doctors get hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And my God, look what's happening. Drugs are being prescribed like candy. A famed Harvard psychiatrist, he helped fuel the recent boom in antipsychotics for kids. Turns out he personally took over $1.6 million from drug makers over the past 7 years. He also failed to report this income to the university, by the way. How can this be? We have no regulations, no disclosure procedures in place, nothing to ensure that we, the patients, can know whether our doctor is on the take. How can this be?
Here it is, the U.S. debt clock. That this is 12/7/2011, and the national debt is over $133,000 per taxpayer. But if we look into the actual pharmaceutical prescription drug liability, we're going to see the liability per taxpayer is $1 million per taxpayer liability. Who owns America? Let me tell you.
So there is no law governing the criminal acts of these various banks, is there?
It's good to be the king. Listen, you know, when you have a congressional system that is based on eBay, when you could buy a congressman or a senator, when they get sold to the highest bidder, who gives a f*** about regulation? Who cares about any of that? You can do whatever you want.
We have about 30 seconds left. What do you think about this story that Congress is legally allowed to engage in insider trading with pre-IPO stock given to Congress people? It's not legally considered to be a bribe. Your thoughts?
It's consistent with everything else we know about the Parliament of Whores that is the U.S. Congress. They are up for bid. You know, we really need a third party to actually see if we can maximize how much we could sell them for. Place your bet, buy a congressman, get whatever regulation you want passed. That's how America works in 2011.
And I see it, and I think to myself, at the center of this really is the Fed. They're in this thing all the way around. And yet, you want to talk about powerful people. You've got a majority of congressmen that are willing to say, we need to open up the books of the Fed. You can't even get this thing brought to the floor now. Why is that?
Well, so far we haven't been able to. We have 273, which includes almost 90 Democrats, so the large majority of the congressmen want it. They don't want it because they really understand the issue and they're not motivated by philosophy as much as the fact that this has struck a chord with the American people, and the American people are demanding more transparency.
Mr. Paul here is trying to change that, make the Fed accountable.
I think you generally agree with it. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two parties.
No.
You know, they're owned by the same people. You take this Goldman Sachs issue. Wouldn't it be revealing if we were able to get the transcripts and all the agreements and discussion that all Treasury and all Federal Reserve officials have had with Goldman Sachs? I mean, that would be a revelation. But, boy, they're hysterical when they think we're coming down close to saying that we might be able to open up the books.
They got bailed out.
We got sold out.
They got bailed out.
We got sold out.
Banks got bailed out.
We got sold out.
You see, the ultra-rich, the big oil, the big pharma, the big tobacco, the big sugar, all of these people, they really control, and the banks really control the people and absolutely own America. and own the people. Everybody owes money to these people, and it's incredible. And now we're trying to protest, and yet we're not really getting coverage of the protest. We're not really seeing solutions. We're seeing Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Times Square. We're seeing these people going out and trying to make a message that they want change, and they're unable to really get it across because the real owners don't want that. Are they going to have that up and let go? I don't know, but it doesn't look like it. We're not even seeing the stories being told. If we look at the start, Thomas Jefferson said he believes that the banks are more dangerous to liberty than all the armies of the world. Andrew Jackson fought the bank war and won and kept the bankers out of the money. But Woodrow Wilson gave in and signed into law. And on his deathbed, he said he was unhappy that he allowed bankers to take control of the money from the government. The Federal Reserve is no more federal than Federal Express. And many of the Fed's owners are secret, and they don't account to anybody. In 2010, they made an $80 billion profit, while the rest of the world, the rest of Americans suffered. And then Reagan came along and started giving tax breaks to the rich. We were told that the wealth would trickle down, but the wealth is not trickling down. Right now they're hoarding it. And the super rich, the greed game, where everybody loses. Greed, greed, greed. And the bailout gave money to the banks, and the people give money to the banks. They still owe that money on the foreclosure. And the freedom of speech is going to the ultra-rich media. They're not really allowing these type of stories to be told. Freedom of speech belongs to anybody who can afford it. That's the way this country has gone now. And we need to be able to find solutions. In 9/11, this incredible event happened of 9/11. And yet it led to a fight, a war that cost $3 trillion. Where did that money go? That money went to Halliburton and went to the rich people, went to rich American companies, and the people didn't get any of that. The people didn't get that. And because of 9/11 on the 8th day of the 8th month of 2008, America granted itself the ability to listen to all communications. The ultra-rich now listen to all bank transactions, all telephones. They really do. And it's up to us to battle against them. The Desi versus the Goliaths. And these stories cannot be told by the media. You see, the media does not allow some topics to even be discussed or talked about. Now, it's an incredible shame. And the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, that First Amendment, is gone now because of the ultra-rich. Rights of privacy, gone. The ultra-rich have revoked it, using the world's fear. Big Brother is watching you, is listening to your telephone even when it's off. They can listen in any conversation they wish on anywhere in the world. They know exactly where you are, tracking every move, trying to use mind control through the media. And the ultra-rich people use the media to manipulate our minds. And they use the mass media of NBC, CBS, Fox to twist. Here we're going to look at some of the ideas, how they handled the Occupy Wall Street. You see, they allow celebrities. They think it's about just a couple of celebrities that are made out to be semi-crazy. Celebrity worship is the key to these people. Sensationalism fills the news. Celebrities fill the news, not news. We need to learn to stop trusting the corporate media.
They go, what is it? What's that thing going down?
Here's Fox News and this ludicrous account of how they covered the Occupy Wall Street.
No, that is exactly an aspect of a mob. It is without cause. It is, as Jesus said, they hated me without cause.
They hated Jesus because he had a cause.
To the extent they say they stand for anything at all, they're against Wall Street. Well, Wall Street, but they support
Wall Street,
Obama.
the ultra-rich, is pulling the strings on everything that happens in our lives.
History to Obama. It was Obama who bailed out the banks. You know, for Pete's sake,
It's
Bush
about
let
Obama.
Lehman Brothers go
It's
under.
not
What else do we
an issue of Republican, Democrat.
President Obama has been more supportive of Wall Street. Now, some of these
It's
protesters,
an issue of the ultra-rich greed.
Right, I mean, they've
It's
said
overwhelming. The Democratic Party is attached at the hip to Wall Street, the same way it
As
to
is the
Hollywood.
Republican Party
I don't know
attached
how
to the
this
hip.
myth got started, except by the Democrats, that Wall Street is Republican.
The entire
Wall Street
political
is a
system is a
street in
manipulative
Manhattan.
ploy of the
Perhaps
ultra-rich
if it were a street in Dallas
to
or
take
in
away
Salt Lake
rights
City,
and to get
Wall
what they
Street would
want,
be
which is profit over people as they use the media to spoon-feed these ideas. And the FDA is just a puppet of the big money tobacco and big pharma. And after the bailout, the ultra-rich have money to burn.
Any state, they want control. Do you want the real answer? They want control over everything you do.
But now they want to see wild salmon.
The ultra-rich want control of everything that you do. Mind control over the people through the media.
A local news reporter physically threatened by an Occupy Wall Street thug. We've got the tape next on the 5.
All right, welcome back to the 5. So as the Occupy protests rage on, some protesters have become truly adorable. Did I say adorable? Sorry, I meant unstable. Here's Fox 5's news reporter John Huddy, brother of our own Juliet, in Zuccotti Park.
He's making no sense right now. He's ripped this off the mic. He ripped this off.
Oh my God, he took the little foam thing off the microphone. Oh my God.
As well, and he just threatened to stab me in the throat with a pen. Okay? Is this how you guys treat people who come in here? Is this how you treat the media?
Oh, delightful. But can we really condemn that threat when it's for a greater good? And yeah, the Tea Party didn't break any laws, but weren't their principles the real crime? The kind that offend movie stars in toupees? Wait, here's one now, yakking about the protests.
We live in the United States where you can protest. And so, you know, God love them. And I think that it's less about individuals than it is about a systemic problem with a system that is out of control.
He left that toupee at home. Yes, another overpaid actor complains about a system out of control. The solution? Buy a $12 million apartment, which is exactly what Alec Baldwin did right after visiting the protest. Basically, a decent crook can make a career out of fleecing the Fed, and I, for one, feel stupid that I'm not scamming the government. I'm a sucker.
But yeah, you should get a defense contract.
Yeah.
That's a scam.
But at least they produce something.
What did the defense people produce?
At this late hour on Saturday night, but by Monday morning they hope to have thousands again, attracting them through Facebook. Some are even camping out, prepared to stay here for months or weeks at a time.
This isn't our thing. It's from Egypt and Spain and Greece. We just adopted it from New York.
I'm sick and tired of the American public being so passive and just accepting the things that our government gives us.
Began with a small, disorganized protest on Wall Street in Lower Manhattan here in New York, has grown today to demonstrations nationwide against corporate greed. From New York to L.A., even up in Maine, people took to the streets to express their anger and make sure their message is heard. But what exactly is their message? We sent NBC's Michelle Franzen to find out.
2 weeks and counting. Several hundred faithful protesters continue to camp out at a park near Wall Street. Their numbers grow each day, fueled by the power of social media. A few scuffles with NYPD and the common threat of discontent over high unemployment and distrust of government and corporations.
There's something unjust going on right now in this economy, in this society.
John Avidable drove from Connecticut to speak out.
Because we can't pay for big, expensive lobbyists to work for what we want.
The sit-in has turned into a small community, complete with a food kitchen and media center. But by design, there is no one leader of this group and no organized set of demands.
Demonstrations have been held in various U.S. cities as momentum grows in the Occupy Wall Street movement. Among the other places taking part on Wednesday were Los Angeles and Boston, where some university students walked out of lectures in solidarity. The epicenter remains New York, where about 5,000 people took to the streets of the city's financial district to rally against economic inequality.
Never in the history of our world has this much wealth been concentrated in so few hands, and it's just out of control. And finally people are waking up and saying no.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest.
Yes, critical thinking, education, equal economic education. This is the point that they're really trying to protest, and they're not even given the chance to protest against these things. It's all reduced down to getting the rich to pay more and more taxes, and I'm sure that they'll make some trivial little change in that way. But that's not the answer. The answer is a real look at all of the problems in the system. A look at how the pharmaceutical people right now own America, as every American citizen owes more than $1 million in liability to them. This is incredible, and they're taking away our rights of protest, taking away our rights of freedom of speech, taking away our rights, burning our rights of privacy. It's all changing, and we need to fight to change the world, to make it a better place. We need to find ways to free up the protest and to get back to the values of America, the protest. We've seen around the world how many places around the world protests have been able to turn over governments and make changes. We need to do the same type of thing. We need to recognize and fight for our rights. It doesn't have to be in the streets. We can do it through messages on the internet to help get people to see other types of opinions and to open their mind, not to just accept everything that they see, but to think with critical minds, because the critical minds would tell you that to use a synthetic anything as an insult to the body, we must be able to recognize this. We also have to recognize that there's incredible biodiversity and people are not all the same, so we have to have ability to allow that. We have to recognize that anybody under the age of 18 should not be smoking, and anybody who's let them smoke is somebody that should go to jail for reckless endangerment. We need to recognize that that white dextrose sugar creates a burden on the system and creates more and more diabetes. We have to look at all the synthetic generation and recognize what we've done to this world and how we have hurt the world in 1,000 different ways and help to prepare it. We don't have to dig for our oil. We can find our oil and grow it. We need to get back to the earth, back to the plants, back to humility, back to respect, and to respect all the people and to get away from this ultra-rich control. Because what we have now is an ultra-rich control over the minds of the people and over the media.
Police treatment of protesters in a video now gone viral on the web. Those who risked their lives for America, now part of the uprising. Marines and others who serve the U.S. go public in their fight for the Occupy Wall Street cause.
These people should not have to destroy property to get across a point. We need to look at what these corporations have done and how they've shifted America into a corporate world of profit over people. We need to be able to look at these different things and find ways to help change this system and get to critical intellects and teach our people how to think before we burn up the system. We have to recognize, to help people, and to get away from just celebrity worship and just to be spoon-fed items through the media. You have to understand that the ultra-rich control what politicians say, and you think that it's just up to the politicians and that's all we debate. But it's not true. Our children today can't read. They can't find America on a globe. They don't know who won the Civil War. They don't know the teachings of Jesus or even basic law, but they know who won Academy Awards, who wrote their favorite songs, what their celebrities had for breakfast, and what kind of car the celebrities drive, or the shoes that they wear. The ultra-rich have replaced education with celebrity worship, replaced freedom with computer control, replaced justice with fear of indictment. They've replaced honor with greed, replaced love with hate, and they foster all the false beliefs, making them money. The people have no skills to discuss issues. They discuss personalities and celebrities as if that's enough. When a true hero comes along, the ultra-rich simply get a debate about their clothing or dispute about their background or something to distract the people from seeing truth and intellectual purity. We need to see the heroes and see the works of the angel.